The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Mark Bound in Triumph, and Dr. Scott Gershwer. And today we will be answering listener emails, and we have a question from Travis, who lives in Greensboro, North Carolina. And Travis asks, the peace deal seems to be moving forward. This is between, of course, Israel and Hamas, or Palestine. Hostages and prisoners are being traded. Yet, for all I can see in the news, there still seem to be some issues moving past this stage. I really can't see the plan moving forward. So I'm asking if the panel sees something I don't. International pressure is being placed on both sides. Do you guys think one of the players will break down and scrap the deal? Right now, if I were to guess, I'd say Israel will break the deal first. If so, where do we go from here? And I believe the deal is already really being broken by one or both sides. Is that correct? I understand that only 4 of the 28 bodies have been returned, and of those, one was not an Israeli prisoner's body, but was a woman, a Palestinian woman, which Hamas said was an error, but Israel said was deliberate, and the correct body was a young man, or a man, which was returned the next day. And I have a further question related to this, Scott. And I've been thinking about how to frame this question. Some of these, the hostages who are deceased have been deceased presumably for some time, and I understand wanting the remains back. In what condition? Do they have a morgue? I don't understand. Do you know what I'm saying? How?
I can't imagine that the bodies are in great shape, if that's what you mean. Especially,
Yes.
I hadn't heard that they actually returned a dead Palestinian and said it was mistakenly, I guess, a Jewish woman.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It was a Palestinian woman. I got that from CNN Alert.
Yeah, look, it's kind of a thing in the Jewish religion to get the entire body back and bury it. It's a long-standing Jewish tradition. You remember back in the days of the Intifada when they were blowing up buses and pizza parlors and discos and stuff like that. There would be a group would come in with sponges and mop up all the blood and actually bring back all the blood that was spilled all over the place and make sure that everything was recovered so that everything could get a decent burial. It's disturbing to think of, but some of these bodies were probably kept in places that were bombed, and the bodies are lost, under rubble and probably won't be recovered at least until the rebuilding starts and the sort of like, truckfuls of demolition stuff gets lifted off the top of them. In the meantime, it gives Netanyahu a good excuse to say this is not the deal we made. We made a deal to get all the bodies back, and we're not getting all the bodies back, so the deal is off. Okay. Look. Monday was a hopeful day. Monday was a good day, I thought. Hostages back. Was surprised to learn by the time I rolled out of bed at 7:30 in the morning on Monday that all the hostages were back. I had heard the night before I went to sleep that 7 were coming out. I thought it was going to take a few days to get everybody, but they got all the 20 hostages that were still alive out. So Monday was a good day. Monday night began to seem a little bit less good. Yesterday was a bad day, I thought, all this stuff about the bodies coming around. Hamas went out and executed a whole bunch of Palestinians. So, far from being a spent force, they are quite potent and willing to kill their own. people. Anybody who is sort of wide-eyed about Hamas, I've been telling you for a while, it is not. It is not freedom fighters. This is a death cult where they want people dead, and Palestinians being dead is just a little bit worse than Jews being dead. And they welcome dead Palestinians all the time, and they've taken steps to do that. Furthermore, and I hesitated to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. This deal could have been done in 2024, in the summer of 2024. And Trump wanted to run on it. And so he, in the proud tradition of Republicans, going back to Richard Nixon, he stopped the deal in 2024. We would be so much further along by now if it wasn't Trump in office and it was Biden in office or Harris in office, and a reasonable person could be overseeing what the next steps are. Because the next steps are kind of where we're at. Even though we're not out of phase 1 yet, you got to start looking towards phase 2. And phase 2 is not going to happen. It doesn't seem to me that it's going to happen. And that Netanyahu, with Trump's blessing, is going to go back and start blasting them again. And this time without hostages, no holds barred. Right? Yeah.
Professor,
Yes.
Professor Dr. Gershberg, I do have a question. Because I from my understanding, from listening to various individuals, again, news stories and whatnot, I understand Trump signed this deal, and then there was a summit in Egypt.
Yes.
And Hamas, they were not invited. But Trump did not attend and Netanyahu did not attend. Neither Hamas or anybody from Palestine signed the agreement. Netanyahu did not sign the agreement. And if Trump is supposed to be in charge of this whole 20-point process,
and the board, right? The board of
peace.
And
in charge of the board and all this, for him to say woohoo, and take all these accolades and have talk about how much cash whoever it was with whom he spoke at the accolade thing on Sunday with the Knesset. I don't remember who it was. Then he leaves in this triumphant thing with nothing accomplished, in my opinion, although the hostages being released, that is wonderful. But then the Israelis don't release the one person who could actually maybe lead Palestine, which I'm not quite clear why the guy wouldn't be released. One who's been, I don't remember his name, the one who's been in jail for 20 years. But then Trump characteristically, of course, leaves, and nothing about what happens after the initial, we'll give you back living hostages and we'll supposedly give you back 28 deceased individuals. The hard work has yet to be done. And as we know, that's going to take years if it can even be accomplished. Trump should have stayed if he's going to be in charge of running all this. You can't just leave.
Well, he's not moving to the Middle East. So, look, I didn't actually hear a question in any of this, but I'll answer what I think might be your question anyway. Tom Friedman had a really interesting column in the New York Times yesterday. I forget what the column was entitled, but the idea was it was advice to Trump. And his advice is, to get this deal done, you need to move fast and you need to break things. He's been saying that for a while. Move fast and break things. Move fast and break things. And what he said was, he compared the hostage negotiation that Trump has pulled off. The hostages are out. It's a great thing. Credit where credit is due. The hostages are out. He compared it to his hotel building career. And he said, listening to President Trump telling Israelis and Arabs on Monday that they were at the historic dawn of a new Middle East was like watching Trump selling his bankers on a plan to build the biggest, most beautiful, most amazing hotel in the world on a toxic waste dump. On one hand, you tell yourself, this man must be crazy. Doesn't he know the history of this place? You can't build a hotel there. And then on the other hand, a voice in the back of your head whispers, what if he can bring it off? And that's a fair question. And I'll give advice too. I will give Trump advice on this. I said, if you want to show the world that you mean business, you got to lean on Netanyahu to release Marwan Barghouti. That's the person that I think you're thinking of. Barghouti was a West Bank Secretary General of the Palestinian Fatah, right? Which is headed up by Abu Mahmoud Abbas. He was sentenced in 2004 to 5 consecutive life sentences for help terror plans during the Second Intifada that killed 5 people in Israel. Barghouti, of course, denies the charges against him and says that he's not under Israeli jurisdiction to be tried in the first place. But here's the thing. There are some people who think that Barghouti could be Nelson Mandela. They think that after 25 years in prison, 20 years in prison, he could come out and he could appeal to Palestinians across numerous factions to cooperate with the Israelis and create a Palestinian state that is acceptable to Israel from a security standpoint and is acceptable to the Palestinians as far as having their autonomy is concerned. He has spoken out against targeting civilians inside Israel, right? So not the West Bank, not Gaza, but where 10/7 took place was inside Israel proper, and he is against that. He has spoken out against that. And he's backed a 2-state solution, whereas Hamas and other hardliners on both sides don't want a 2-state solution, but think that they could get to a 1-state solution on their side. So Ami Ayalan is a former Shin Bet police chief. The Shin Bet is the secret police of the Israelis who governs the Palestinian regions, the West Bank and Gaza. And he said that Marwan is the only Palestinian leader who can be elected by the people and lead a united and legitimate Palestinian government towards a path of mutually agreed separation from Israel. This is not a dove speaking. And he says that Barghouti is the only person who can do this. So Netanyahu has to let him out. And so far, Netanyahu's not letting him out. If Trump wants to give an act of good faith to the Palestinian people, he would allow this guy out of prison. He would make them release this guy from prison. And that would go a long way, I think, and I'm sure I'm not the only one on this, to seeing this crisis of that's coming, that I believe is coming, averted. Because he will look more even-handed, and the Palestinians will have a leader, perhaps, hopefully, that is worth leading, that is worth having there, that is going to work toward peace the way Nelson Mandela, his leadership really made a big difference in South Africa. And there literally is nobody else. And so that move needs to happen, and it should happen really soon. And I don't know that it's going to happen.
Yeah, and that was the person. So thank you for answering my non-question, but yeah. So what crisis are you thinking of? Because Trump has said, well, they're going to disarm, and I said they're going to disarm, and they told me they're going to disarm, and the Hamas, and of course they're not going to disarm. Why should they? And obviously they have not disarmed.
I think their actions are speaking to that, right? They went out there and they said, and we don't even know if these aren't people who were just released from Israeli prisons, who Hamas gathered up and executed in public, right out in front, not making no bones about it. And so Hamas is not what they said, a spent force. Hamas may or may not have any intention to be political leaders anymore. But they are the force in charge, as Hezbollah was in Lebanon for a really long time, and they need to be dealt with. The crisis that's coming is the crisis of this deal falling apart before it's really even going. We're in step 1 of phase 1, and we can't even get to phase 2.
So what force? So Trump says, well, if we'll do it by force. And then he said to the reporter, you understand, we'll do it by force. They're going to disarm. Yeah. So what do you see happening now?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are no hostages. Khan Yunis was a city in Gaza that was largely left untouched because that's where the IDF knew the prisoners were being held, and they didn't want to kill their own people. Now those prisoners aren't there; those hostages are not there anymore, and they're back in Israel. And unless a new group of hostages is taken by Hamas, which I don't think is likely to happen, Hamas has no more leverage. They don't have any hostages to shield themselves under. They only have their own people to shield themselves under. And Israel has proven before that that's not a deterrent for them using bombs. Bigger bombs coming, bigger bunker buster bombs being dropped. Trump gives Bibi Netanyahu the green light to do whatever he needs to do in Gaza to get rid of Hamas once and for all, no matter how many people of Gaza need to die in the rubble. This is foreseeable stuff. This is not, this is hiding. This is not hiding at all in plain sight. This is really out there. Trump is saying if they won't disarm, we'll disarm them. Well, I hope he doesn't mean the United States military. I know they've sent 200 troops over there, but it's not clear where those 200 troops are, if they're in Israel, if they're on a ship, if they're somewhere else. But if he puts 200 troops in Gaza, that is bait. That is Beirut, 1982, and we don't want to see that happen again. So he's going to, and I think he's smart enough to know that he doesn't want that to happen again, and he's going to say, "Hey, Bibi, you gave it your best shot. It just didn't work out. Go back to bombing them." And there you go. I mean, he didn't get his Nobel Peace Prize. I don't think he's getting it next year either, not with all the other actions he's taken. And that really seemed to be the only reason that he put all the energy that he did into this peace process was because he was hoping to get a Nobel Prize and he knew the deadline was coming up for them to announce it. How sickening is that? That was his incentive. That's over. It's not happening. So that's my prediction. What do you think, Mark?
One of the things that I took out of this was, they didn't see a plan. They were asking if we saw a plan going forward. And there's been a lot of reporting that it seems to stop here with the release of the hostages. Now, as far as being reported, the only people left Hamas's control are deceased. So everybody living is already back. And as you said, Scott, Monday was a good day. Tuesday, not so much. But there doesn't seem to be, it seems to be kind of catch as catch can as to where they move forward beyond this point. And you're correct. If all the living hostages are back, and there's only the deceased, and I think there's like 21, 22 left that's being reported by CNN and other outlets and BBC, that there's like 21 or 22 that are still left, the deceased. What does stop Israel from saying, here we go? And you're right. The fact that Hamas executed people, yesterday or today, basically executions, shows that they are not a spent force. So, yes, it got the hostages back, absolutely. But I think if we, Travis, who was asking that, when I was reading his email, I was thinking, he was kind of thinking along the idea of a two-state solution and, truly moving forward with this, and he's not seeing it. And I'll be honest with you, Travis, I'm with you. I don't see it either. This accomplished the hostages to the point that it has. And yes, Scott is correct about Israelis having this thing about being able to bury, all of the remains. My wife being Jewish, she'll, I understand that mindset that they have, which is basically the same mindset we have on the Missing Warriors in Action program. We don't care if you were in the Koreas buried under somewhere. We want to get your remains back at any cost and get them back here for a proper burial. Which absolutely, there's no doubt. So yeah, the Israelis, are probably looking at saying, yeah, we'd like to get those other 21-2 bodies back and do what we got to do. But at this point in time, the attitude is if they're already dead, we could get them after we completely wipe Hamas out. we could then start the process of finding those bodies and bringing them home. So, yeah, I kind of go a little bit with Travis on this one in the sense, and again, reading more into the email than I put out here for the question. This was it. I mean, this was basically it. Was it worthwhile? Absolutely. You've got some living people back with their families out of being held as hostages. Absolutely was worth it. I'm never going to say that it wasn't. It definitely was. But it doesn't seem like there was anything beyond that. And I think that is what, and Travis mentions that, the world is condemning things. That's because the world isn't seeing very much beyond this. They kind of see this as, okay, well, this is great, but what about the rest of it? Or are we just going to go back to slugging it out again? That's not what the world wants to see. Not that it really matters what the world thinks, but the fact that, that's where we sit. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that Trump, and I will give him all the credit. So please do not write me in and say I don't give Trump any credit whatsoever, even though this was a Biden deal. This has Tony Blinken's signature all over the damn thing. They just changed the name. But I'll give him credit for getting it done. I will definitely give him credit for getting it done. But if you were looking for a plan or something out of Trump that was more far thinking into the future, that might lead to true peace, that might lead to a true two-state solution, I don't think you're going to find it here. I don't think you're going to find it at all. And I think they're just, I hope not. I truly do. I hope it doesn't come to this. But I think they're just going to go back to slugging it out again. Because when you look at this, it just seems, after the swapping thing, it seems very vague as to what exactly people are supposed to be doing. It just seems vague. And if you're going to have a sustainable peace, if you're going to have something that is sustainable, you got to be specific. You got to do this, and this. And if you're not specific, it's just catch as catch can, as I say. And I don't know. But yeah, I totally agree with everything that Scott said under this. That this is the way it's moving. And again, a good day Monday.
Yeah,
we taped this on Wednesday.
Right, huh? Monday was a good day. Tuesday was less of a good day. Wednesday, now
not so much.
A good day, and probably tomorrow not going to be so hot either. So
yeah.
There's two things that I have to add to this because I hadn't seen it before, and when you were asking about what the next phases are. So the next phase, the phase that has already happened, is that the Israeli troops have moved to a yellow line. You can look this up online and get the map. They've right. pulled back a certain way. They're not all the way out of Gaza, but they pulled back and they're not involved in there anymore. But the IDF has said, look, we have tried to undermine Hamas's control of Gaza by backing different Palestinian groups, different clans of Palestinians with mixed results. And Hamas has now decided that they're not going to put up with these groups anymore. So what you saw on video yesterday, if you happen to catch the video, was 8 men who come from a particular family, the Dog Moshe family, that has had a long-running rivalry with Hamas. And 8 members of that clan were executed yesterday, and others have been executed as well. I've heard as many as 2,000 people were executed by Hamas. So I can't confirm that, but that's what I have read. And when Trump was asked about it, he said, well, Hamas wants to continue to be the policeman of Gaza, and we gave them approval for a period of time. And that Hamas had taken out a couple of gangs that were very bad, and that didn't bother me very much, to be honest. So Israel has set these people up as opposition to Hamas, but Hamas, gaining the initiative, has taken it upon themselves to execute these people that Israel has supported. And Trump is fine with it because life means absolutely nothing to him. So he's okay with that. Yeah. And in fact, the CENTCOM, who's the military leadership of the United States in the area, has sent notes to them, has sent them messages and saying, you need to stop this, to Hamas, that they need to stop these executions and that they'll put an end to it if it doesn't stop. So there you go. Now we're talking about escalation with U.S. troops involved, and Hamas is not stopping, right? They're going to continue to shore up support. There's no Israeli army to stop them anymore. They can move around Gaza as they please, and they're taking full advantage of this time to murder any of their rivals who were working in coordination with Israel, and that there's nothing that the UN, Trump, the United States military, the IDF, or Bibi Netanyahu can do to stop them. And of course, Trump's thing is, yeah, that's okay for now. Hamas is out for revenge. That is something he understands very well, and that this is going to be a problem because they're not going away. And the next step of this, phase 2, is not going to happen, and it's a three phase plan that is not going to get past phase 1. And we got a president of the United States who's strutting around like he's a real big deal and a big peacemaker. And, I'll give him credit. Okay, fine. But here's the thing. He doesn't have the attention span or the temperament to see this through. And because of that, we're going to have a real problem there. And the slaughter will continue. And, look, phase two, we're not going to get to phase 2 of a 3-step plan. And we're already out, as Brooke pointed out. Trump has gone home. I don't think it's his focus anymore. He's more interested in what's going on here in the States and in Venezuela and wherever else he can extort money from. But there's nothing to be gained right now in Gaza or Israel, and he's going to let it play out as it will. It's highly, obviously, transactional, which people say was what gave him the ability to do this. His friendship with Netanyahu was not as strong as his desire to be a transactional president who has personal interests in Qatar and other Arab nations, wants to play to them to get them to support him and his family businesses there. And that's really what he cares about. Yep. Tough to really give him any credit for it, to be honest. Well,
hey, it is,
but the hostages are out. The hostages are out. They could have been out last summer, summer 2024. Right. They could have been out, but he stopped that, just like Reagan did with the Iranian hostages, just like Nixon did with the Vietnam War, twice, not once but twice. And boy,
So there you have it, Travis.
People will wake up somehow. There you go, Travis. Yep. All good things happening out there.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry for rambling.
No, that was good.
No, that's fine. I appreciate the information. That's why I've been thinking about situation there, and I wanted to ask you. So thank you, Dr. Gershwer, and thank you.
What does SNAFU? What does SNAFU stand for? Situation normal, all fucked up.
Yep.
Yes.
That is what's happening there. SNAFU.
Yep.
So thank you, Travis, for your question, and I do hope that that we answered it. Not that I had anything much to do with it, but I hope that Scott and Mark answered the question for you, and thank you for listening. Thank you to all our listeners, and do subscribe if you are not yet subscribed on the platform of your choice. Subscribing is free and helps us grow our channel. So we look forward to seeing you again next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So, for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Conflict Science. The JCIS is an open journal for upcoming scholars. The JCIS is currently accepting article submissions on an ongoing basis. The JCIS is a publication of NovaWorks, a scholarly depository at Nova Southeastern University. A link to the journal is in our description.